Healthcare in senior care is fraught with problems and challenges, but we're also seeing some amazing new clinical treatments and resources. This show will help illuminate and uncover the good, bad, the ugly in order to equip patients, families, and other healthcare providers. Welcome to Senior Care Confidential.
It is a great day at Senior Care Confidential. We have some really exciting guests today. We are talking about dementia. The dementia client that refuses to accept he's got dementia, or the adult children are too afraid to tell him that they've got dementia, or they just don't want to have the conversation and want to stay in denial. So we've got two great guests today. Jenny Knutson, she is a certified dementia practitioner and an expert in dementia care. We also have Julie Mercer. She is part of the Joy Care team, and she's also a concierge dementia specialist. We are so excited to have you both talking about such an important topic. So, Jenny, let's talk about just your experience with dementia. I know you've been working with dementia patients and Alzheimer's for a long time.
I sure have. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, so I've been working with seniors in many capacities over the last, 13 years now, from working in senior living campuses as an executive director for independent living, assisted, and memory care campuses, along with standalone memory cares. And during that time, I kind of learned so much about all of the different aspects of how a senior ages. And I got to see the disease of Alzheimer's and dementia starting very early on with people, even when they were in independent living, and watched how that progressed into assisted living and memory care. During that time, it was also part of my role to visit with families about how to know when it was time to move somebody into a community, to have that additional help. And it brought in a whole lot of different backgrounds of people, of socioeconomic status, of hobbies, of demographics, and where they're from, what was their work. So many different varieties that it became something that was so enjoyable to me, because I had to find what was it about this family and their current situation with that person that was going to tell me how to advise them. And was it the right time? Or could they stay at home a little longer? And my goal would have been to try to get them into our care as early as possible, so that they can adapt as they're going through this continuum of care. However, sometimes that just wasn't quite possible. And so I would need to help them with resources in the home so that they could have that care and help until it was time, or until they were ready and able to bring their loved one over. And so during that experience, I gained a language, I guess you could say. I've started recognizing it as a new language of how to talk to people that are affected, whether it's dementia or it's just other aging related issues where now they need more help. I have a way of talking with them that helps them keep their dignity, but at the same time, try to understand the time is now. You planned for retirement for a very long time. Now we're looking at after retirement, and there's not a waiting period just to see what's going to happen. And I kind of guide them through that journey, and I guide their families through that journey on how to help them. And we try to put together a plan with as much input from the person affected as possible and as safe for them.
Yeah, it's a hard conversation, and so many are in denial. I know, Julie, we are working with a client right now, so I'm just going to give an example and see what you would recommend that we do. Because even as care managers, we do the very best we can. We've got a lot of experience, myself, over 30 years. Julie, you've been in this industry 16 years. But it's interesting to the listeners, we see something new every day. And it's just so incredible. It's such an interesting business, and there's not a handbook on what to do. And so we have to use our best judgment. So we have a client right now who, her power of attorney has no family, but her power of attorney refuses to have testing done. because he doesn't want to, quote unquote, open a can of worms. And she really can't be alone right now. She's getting afraid at night. So she drinks because she's afraid. She gets paranoid. She feels if she uses her computer, somebody is watching her, and she calls it shadow banning.
Shadow banning.
Somebody is watching her on the computer. And so that's that paranoia with dementia, but she really should not be alone. So what would you do in this case? And how would you handle this? My concern is it's just a safety thing and she can't be alone anymore. She does not want somebody in the home. I've tried let's have a chef come in. That doesn't work. Let's have a housekeeper come in. So as a specialist and expert, how would you handle that?
So, you know what? I've had that exact situation actually. And, I've had it with somebody that has dementia as well. And nobody had told her yet that she has dementia. She had been diagnosed by her physician. And as such, she had been living life, still driving her car, running around, going to the store every day, taking care of her household, and had no idea that she had it. Her family all lived out of state and, weren't able to visit that much. So they didn't know. And they started to find out because of a banker calling, and saying, hey, we're seeing some odd things going on. Then a police officer calls because an air conditioning repairman called them suggesting a wellness check on her from oddities he was seeing. And then the mailman actually called the police for a wellness check as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So, but none of that came from the physician, which is also very common, sadly, right now. But so I got sent in, and the family wasn't really sure what level she was at yet, how far she had progressed. So in that time, I was to go in, and their idea was I was going to be taking her out of state to a daughter-in-law in order to go to a memory care, because Alzheimer's immediately, is memory care to people, and it's not necessary right at the beginning, and she was not super far progressed, but she was progressed enough that she needed to have somebody come in and help her with at least 3 things. And that was medication, it was nutrition, and it was going to also be driving. Okay. Take the keys away before something does happen instead of waiting for that catastrophic event. So I had to talk to her and tell her she had dementia. And in the same scenario that you're talking about, Joe, if somebody doesn't believe they have dementia, even if this gentleman goes and does the testing for his, you said it was his sister?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That, it doesn't mean that she's going to understand when he tells her that she has dementia and she needs help. So sending somebody in that is a dementia specialist, like any of the 3 of us, going in and breaking down and learning about that person, learning their habits and what makes them tick. What is going to upset them in a way like you just need to get out this door versus, hey, this can be a productive kind of help. And sometimes that takes a few visits. It's not always immediate in that sense. Getting her to want help is going to be, or allowing help is going to be a little bit of a process. One, I go in and I look to see, are they going to take data that I give them even without a diagnosis? And will they accept the data? Not just that the brother is saying, hey, you have this disease and need more help, but hey, I can back this up. I've got paperwork from the doctors that they're concerned that you're missing your medications. I have the neighbors calling because they're seeing you wander around in your pajamas, and even though we don't know what it is, sis, we need to get a handle on it and make sure you're safe, as we continue on in our normal life. And that's bringing this person in that is a specialist. We don't have to use the words dementia, by the way. We're a specialist, and we're an outside, agency that can come in and help you, sister, make some decisions about how you want your care to go moving forward. And so they're going to come and learn about you, do a few reviews, ask you some questions. And guess what? I'm going to stay in my lane is what the brother needs to tell her. And I am going to let the two of you make a plan.
I love
Now,
that. That's
so,
great.
yeah. So me and the brother, though, of course, if there is dementia concern and it's not violating, her rights to privacy in that sense, is going to be a matter of he's going to have to take my coaching. And when I coach him to go and tell sister that we're not talking, that, we'll have a family meeting later after you guys come up with some stuff, then I need him to do that.
Mm-hmm.
He can't break from that. Otherwise it starts to mess with a plan of action that will help her feel in control and not as embarrassed about her brother needing to come in and help her. And we start to work that plan. And, it can take, I think with, this client that I have, that I was just speaking of, it took about 2 weeks of 2 to 3 visits each week because I couldn't go and stay a whole day with her. It was too much. It was overwhelming. So I'd go in for a couple of hours and leave for a couple of hours and come back a couple of hours, and we'd get that relationship building. And then she was willing to build that plan. In the meantime, my eyes were on her. So if there was an immediate danger, I could notify the brother and we could take, swifter action. So part of that also depends if you have to take swift action or not, or if you can go through a process such as this.
I love that. That's hard. Well, we had a client that Julie and I worked with years ago. So we worked together for a long time, who was in Boston in a nursing home. He was incontinent, barely talking, wheelchair bound. It was so sad. I mean, he had declined so much, very forgetful. His daughter brought him to Dallas and asked us to help him reverse all the issues he had declined so quickly in this nursing home. So her idea was, you know what, I want to reverse this. So Julie's suggestion, which I loved so much, was movement. And Julie, talk about movement a little bit.
Well, movement is life. Movement is medicine. So to me, even I think when we get that diagnosis or hear about it, especially with that dementia or Alzheimer's, everybody thinks life stops or movement stops. That is so not true. And the more, even if it's small little things, but routine and repetitious 3 times a day or once a day, it makes a world of difference. You've got your blood flowing, your just from your mind, your brain connects to everything going on, and movement, when it stops, everything else seems to stop. So, I mean, I'm not clinically based here. This is just on what I know about in seeing movement.
Right. And our client, what we did, we got him to Dallas. Mm-hmm. We developed a care plan. We could not promise, but we started with week 1. We're going to get him out of the wheelchair. We're going to have him walk 5 feet. We're going to have him walk back 5 feet. We're going to have him sit down. We're going to get him to stand up in his wheelchair every hour. And within about 6-8 weeks, he was walking. He was walking the golf course of the neighborhood.
I love it.
We were able to get him on a bladder program and he was able to reverse the incontinence. And that was all Julie's doing, just working on just measures to turn things around. Not everybody can do that. And not every patient is in a position where we can turn things around, but we did give him such a better quality of life. And that's so key too, is when you move someone, we want to make sure we're moving them to a place that has the very best practices and the very best care. And that's what is so great about a dementia specialist. I know in Dallas, DFW, there are 900 choices for living in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And how does a family that has a job, has adult children, has parents that are aging, is involved in their church, how do they have time to know what the best place is for mom or dad? And that's where working with a dementia specialist is so key. What are some other thoughts on clients that, what about the client that is walking? I remember several years ago, I was on 75 and there was a man in briefs, only briefs, The traffic was at a standstill. It was like 5-hour rush hour. There was a man walking in briefs, no shoes, nothing else, down 75, walking on 75 going north. And I called the police and she said, ma'am, I'm on it. We've gotten so many calls on this. But he was a wanderer. And that happens so much with dementia. And I know with my mother's situation, she had dementia. And she, unless you were holding her hand, she would get up, walk down the street. I mean, she was always looking for something. And so we knew for her, a memory unit was the only safe option. So what are some other, like if somebody does have the, okay, is it time for dementia? Is it time for a memory unit? Is it time for an assisted living? Well, how do you direct families on what the best option is when you know eventually they're going to have to be in a memory unit?
For me, I look at health and safety are the two primary things. Is their health affected by not being in one and getting more care? Or is their safety affected by not being in another community where they have more care and more eyes on them? Those are the first two things. If you cannot provide those and check those off at home any longer, then it's time to start looking and finding out which one might be a good fit for your mom. And there's so many different types out there. There's small, there's large, there's, residential care homes, there's type B assisted livings and huge ones. And, just depending on their stage, they may not need to go completely to a memory care yet. They may be able to go to assisted living. There's even several assisted livings that have locked doors, and the people that are cognitive enough have, a code that they can go in and out of, but the others, maybe they're not quite ready for memory care, but at the same time, you want a little bit of a backup safety. And so there are some options such as that as well.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And so when a family is looking for a community, how many would you recommend touring? Like what is the average? You know how we watch on HGTV, you got 3 houses and you pick. Well, that's not realistic. But
oh, no, it's
not. I know. But
No,
what about, so when I know you look at budget, you look at location. So what else, like what would you suggest if you have a family, you or Julie have a family and they've got to make a decision and they've got a couple weeks, they've got caregivers around the clock while they're making this decision. How many stops would you recommend?
Well, first I'm going to call a senior advisor. Okay.
Absolutely.
Somebody who actually has access to a database that can dwindle a list down. I do that whether I'm in Dallas, whether I'm in Boston, okay, whether I'm in Florida. I do that first because I know what the primary family members or that person can afford, first off. I know some of their basic care needs, so I know what kind of a staff to resident ratio we're going to need, okay? So in figuring out then, what are the things they like to do as well? Do they need rehab while they're there? So is there a physical therapy program? Learning all of these, you give this to a senior advisor and they actually go through and with their database, they hone it down for you. And in that sense, then you know what? I would pick 3 off of that list and go visit them and make notes. And if you found that one that was just, it's just amazing, then you're in a short time frame, go ahead and do it. But you need to understand that most of the assisted livings in Dallas and memory cares are going to just be a 30-day financial notice. So while we don't want to move mom or dad often, it's not the end of the book with this one move. Okay. This isn't necessarily their last place to have to live. We don't get it right the first time, every time. So be open to the fact that, give it a good 60 days at least. And in that time frame, you'll know if it's the right fit. And if it's not, you can still go and look for another place. If it wasn't just the perfect one though, then you go and you grab 3 more. Okay. And then you have even more of a comparison to go through. And you don't settle on one. You need to make sure that it has the bulk of what you need. None of them are going to be perfect. Every one of them is going to mess up. We all do. But it's how they fix it and how they react and your overall experience that you need to look at.
And that's what I say is our product is people. And so people do make mistakes, and every human being is different and has different quirks and different characteristics and likes and dislikes. And it's just, you're not going to always get it right. We can try and do our best. Did you have a comment to make?
No, I was just agreeing. It's how we resolve it, and we aren't perfect. And so it's finding those that aren't going to just push it under the rug, that they are actually going to do something about it, and the reaction time to that.
Yeah, I love that. And one thing, as far as a placement service, what I like to explain to families is there's no charge to the family to use a placement service, and they have the expertise. That is a piece, like you say, they have toured these 900 places. They can negotiate the contracts, like where we can't really do that. That's not our place, but that's their expertise, and I love that. That's a great idea. Those are some great recommendations.
So, Jenny, would you say when someone comes to you and says, when do you know it's time to start looking for my loved one a memory care? What is the response? Would it be because you're asking this question, it is time? Or
no, I look at health and safety. And so again, I go right back to the very simple things of health and safety. And then I say, let me ask you a few questions.
Okay.
All right. Tell me what's causing you to ask this question. Right. And then let's put that in with the big picture of everything else they're going to start to tell us. Because, when you finally get to talk with a specialist as a family member, you end up starting to pour everything out. And a lot of times Jess was saying, what brought you to ask this question or to feel that you're concerned? You're going to start hearing a lot of things. You're going to get a whole full picture. And with that picture, you can start to paint for them, Julie, what they need to continue to look for. Or if it's like halt, do not pass, go, stop. Nope, it's time, and let me reassure you that it is time, and that you're doing the right thing. And so you can kind of learn a little bit, do a discovery, and then guide them from there.
I love that. Paint that picture.
Yes. And another thing is the Conversation Project. It is a nonprofit. It's conversationproject.org, but they have a specific conversation template for families of a loved one with dementia. And I love that because you can talk, it really guides you on the questions. And nobody says, when I turn 75, will you please put me in a nursing home, or please put me in a memory unit? Everybody wants to age in place and be at home. But unfortunately, sometimes that's just not going to be an option. And so we want the next best thing where that loved one is safe and well cared for. So let's say, Jenny, they get to this community and they are kicking and screaming. I remember when I was a hospice nurse, I drove in front of Juliet Fowler. This is years ago. And there was a woman who would not get out of the car. And she was being dropped off at Juliet Fowler. I mean, she was not going to get out of the car. It was the saddest thing. It broke my heart. And the family was like yelling at her, get out. Hey, we're here. What is an easier way? So, okay, you've ripped off the Band-Aid. You found a place. Mom does not want to go, does not believe she has dementia. She smokes and there's cigarettes, all over the floor. It's time for her to move. So what do you recommend to that family that first couple of days? What are the expectations? What do you advise these families? Because that is really hard. I know from personal experience, it's extremely hard. So what would you recommend?
First, get her through the door. Okay, let's get her out of the car and through the door. That can be done in so many different ways, depending on how far along she is in her progression. Okay. You've got to know the person inside and out, and you might have to be comfortable with lying a little bit. Okay. And that's okay. I believe in this situation, it's okay because you want to make this as peaceful as you can. So getting them through the doors is the first step. Some people will make a hairdresser appointment at the community because most communities have a salon of some sort, and they'll say that they're going to take them to the salon and get their hair done. And then, hey, they're having lunch. Why don't we go join them for lunch? And we sit down and, at some point while the family member is engaged, I should say, the person that's moving in, the resident, then the family member can kind of scooch out. All right. And we will help them scooch out. And then we will continue that conversation with their loved one. And we'll continue the reassurances that, no, your daughter's coming back. She had to run and get some of your things. You're going to get to stay here for a little bit. And it's either, you're going to be staying here just for a short while. It's kind of like a hotel. We're going to make you enjoy your entire visit. We got some fun things to do. You know what? Other people say, hey, Mom, we got to bring you to this great place, with other seniors. It's kind of a respite hotel, so to speak. And your house has termites.
Mm-hmm.
And
we got to get you out for a couple of weeks.
Quite a bit of repairs. And then you know what? After a couple of weeks, if your mom still remembers that they're there because of the termites, then you know what, Mom, when they got in there to take care of those termites, they found some massive plumbing issues. Ugh. We are stuck just a little bit longer, and this can go on and on and on as long as it's needed to be. You know what, if that's not working as a part of that, or, any other redirection tools are not working that you've tried first, then it's time to consult with a physician and talk about, what medication regime that person is on as well. And I'm not talking about medication that's going to cause them just to go zoned out into zombie eyes and do whatever they're told, but be able to handle that redirection is what we need that person to be able to do. And sometimes that means having just an edge taken off. It doesn't mean let's just make them go sleep and we'll go on about our day. But there are things that can help with that and make their day better too, and not make them feel as stressed out in the meantime.
Yeah, that's great. Those are some great ideas. And also, I've encouraged families to decorate their room like their bedroom at home. So the pictures, the dresser, the furniture. So they're like, wait, something looks familiar here. That doesn't always work, but that's a good thing to do. Pictures, reminders of family. Those are great too. So
yes, great ideas.
Yeah. I was at a community about a month ago and this guy was moving in with golf clubs. He thought he was going to this resort. It was so cute. He was so excited about playing golf and, they did what they had to do. And I'm sure they took him out to play some golf. But anyway, whatever you need to do, that's where a dementia specialist helps so much. And Jenny, you have been great. If somebody wants to reach out to you, I know you're based in Dallas, but you're all over the place. So I know you're in Florida right now with some clients. I know you travel nationally, and we're so fortunate to have people like you and Julie. So tell me how we can get in touch with you.
Absolutely. You can go to my website. It's olivebranchseniors.com. So olivebranchseniors.com. There is an option there where you can not only learn about our services, but then you can also schedule a consult. And with that, you can go in and see the calendar and pick a date and time that works for you and go ahead and schedule that out with me. It can be in person or virtual. And the other cool thing that we have started offering, Joe, is we are also going to start offering coaching services for families. So if you can't bring in a consultant, day in and day out, like some clients have us managing their loved ones, 3 or 4 times a week, right? If you can't do that, but you still want some stress taken off, we will do virtual coaching sessions and teach you as the family member what you need to be looking for and what your next step should be, and kind of cut out some of that time that going through Google and trying to guess which is right and which is not right. Kind of cutting some of that time away. I
love that. That is a great idea. And so many adult children are far away from mom and dad, and it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard to be in two places at one time, So Julie,
It really is.
yes, thank you so much, Julie. You
Thank
can
you, Jo.
reach us at Joy Care Management. Julie is Julie Mercer at joycaremanagement.com. She does a great job for us. These are two just amazing dementia specialists in DFW, and I'm so honored to have you both with us today. And we just hope you have a blessed day. And call Jenny, call us if you need us. We're here to help you with your loved one.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jo.